You're listening to the Slavic Literature Pod, your shelf help guide to all things Slavic.
I'm Cameron Lalana.
And I'm Matt Garrison.
Today we're covering Part 2, Chapter 12 of Vasily Grossman's life and fate, moving from the individual German soldier, our friend, maybe I should call him that, Peter Bach, to General Friedrich Paulus, who is leading the Wehrmacht offensive on Stalingrad, who was once really at the top of his game, feeling like every day is just awesome. And now things are not going so great. Once upon a time, he didn't even look at his intelligence reports, and now he wants to see them first thing. Definitely a sign that the war is going well for you, and people are starting to notice. Is there anywhere here that you'd like to start?
Well, I think this chapter is kind of a little bit self-explanatory. It's not it's not the most complex, and that's okay. It's a chapter of realization for the German high command that they're essentially stalled, trying to figure out what to do. It's the sort of first realization that it's not going to be probably as easy as they thought that it was going to be. I mean, they thought that they were going to be able to take the Soviet Union quite quickly, and that seems to be not the case. So just kind of these interconnected ideas that I've noticed and am thinking about, and in some ways it reminds me of Crime and Punishment when we were going through there, and we read this article on how it was kind of talking about the way that freedom and chance are linked in narrative and in Crime and Punishment specifically, in all these cases where there's almost no way that these events could all happen in the way that they do, yet they do. Yet by chance, somehow, all of these things can somehow kind of coalesce. And this is what it feels like, as Grossman kind of describes to Paulus, saying that, basically, like, there are so many chances where it seems like they should have been able to basically completely crush the remaining Soviet forces, yet somehow they still are able to just slip through and just, retreat in just the right way, that they're unable to really catch them. And this sort of, freedom and chance, they're still alive, just barely. And this idea of, enacting this totalizing regime is going to be very difficult, because it's really hard, borderline impossible, to sort of completely eliminate all of those elements. That's what I think about war, with my no experience of it.
Very difficult, probably quite complex.
Yeah, probably.
That's the official podcast line.
Yeah.
There's a line in it where Paulus, I think you put this in your post today, where Paulus kind of makes an analogy for, it's not only, even if we lose Stalingrad, that's fine. We didn't strike this region with a fist. We struck this region with an open hand, and we're snaking our fingers in. And for me, that really paralleled this is, I think, our first time spending like a high level German perspective on it. And for me, what it calls to mind is the beginning of Stalingrad, where we open on Hitler and Mussolini meeting, and Hitler, as it says there, and I badly misquote this, I haven't thought about Stalingrad in a couple hours at least.
That's a long time.
And I know. And it kind of says that Hitler smashed Europe with his fist, but he was unable to conceive that his fist could not smash through everything. And I don't know if this parallel was intentional, this imagery of the fist, and this as like a shorthand for power, the idea that, of course, it's impossible for the state, I think, for Grossman to hold anything in a single fist. The state can't hold the world. But the fascist worldview is that the state, as we were looking at through Bach's chapters, should be able to hold the world in its fist, and it conceives of itself only as a desire, as it implements as tools of destruction, which I think the original prognosis from Stalingrad holds true, that the fascist war machine cannot crush the world in its fist, open or shut, however it strikes.
Yeah, I think it's sort of like that, but there's also like when we were talking about yesterday, I still like thinking about it. It still kind of haunts me, our conversation from yesterday, where it can't unless you let it. And there is a willingness and a just something about it that is in some ways easier to just let it consume you. and to not really have to think. All I do is I go on social media and I read the same couple, I'm just, getting force fed my news and all this other stuff. This is a separate. I promise this links in my head, but it's too much to get into at the moment. You could maybe you see where I'm going with this, but just the way that Grossman is kind of challenging us not to do that and not to kind of just accept status quo and kind of accept power as such, but to really, sort of challenge that, I think is part of the novel. I would say for sure. Not that everybody that buys into it is it's maybe not as deliberate for everyone. There's certainly varying levels, but for somebody like we were talking about last chapter, there is that kind of fear and anxiety around that for sure, rightfully so.
Yeah, for sure. And there's nothing else I really want to get to, but I just wanted to bring in a reader comment. That's the last thing I had, which is from Leia, who said that they were struck by this line. Everything was going as it should, and yet somehow failing to go as it should. It was as if the trifling uncertainties and chance misfortunes of the last weeks were beginning to reveal something quite new. The true face of the war, the face of war in all its joylessness and hopelessness. And then Leia goes on to say, it seems this clarity in Paulus is the most hopeful aspect of the chapter. The battle for Stalingrad will move forward whether or not he thinks it's worth pursuing, and it seems he is well aware of how increasingly futile it is. But the fact he is aware of this marks a shift in perspective that aligns with the reality of what they are doing, stripped of the delusion of ideology. I think that's a great summary of it.
Yeah, we got some good little discussion going on in our Discord.
We did. We had one person.
Yeah.
We had one person who yesterday sent a comment after we recorded, which is not really pertinent to this chapter, but I would encourage you to go and read that. I thought it was quite interesting, the back and forth that you and this person had.
Yeah, we've been having some good discussion. I'm glad. This is a good couple of chapters. I really have liked reading these.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I haven't liked reading them, but I liked talking about them.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, and we will continue to. So, this is anything else you should get to. Maybe we should wrap it up there.
I'm done. I'm ready to wrap it up. So, in that case, you will hear from us again soon.